Peace and Black Power family. Welcome to another episode of Blue Knowledge Radio, the place where knowledge is born. This is your host, Knowledge Born Lot. And we are here with our race firstologist, this African warrior, here to guide our steps properly and give us a proper understanding of what it truly means to be race first, without any cut or any additive. So definitely an honor and privilege to welcome him back to the platform. So it's my honor and privilege at this time to introduce some, present to others. True example of African manhood, our brother, Baba Imhotep Faitu.
Thank you, my brother. How you doing today?
I'm good. If I was doing any better, all our enemies would be dead.
Yes. It's an honor. It's an honor to be back with you. I enjoyed the last time we was together. I think that the show went well. We was able to get a lot of important concepts and ideas flushed out, and I look forward to doing the same today.
Definitely. Before we begin, well, I think it ties into the conversation. We hear September on Do Knowledge Radio is dedicated to the African woman, the upliftment, the empowerment of the African woman. So we begin in that manner to speak about the importance of the African woman and like a message of upliftment. I think that'd be fitting. So can we start there?
Yes. What I like to always try to stress to the Black woman is that the feminine, when I say the feminine principle, I'm specifically talking about the Black woman, no other woman. So the feminine principle is supreme in our reality. We must honor and uphold that principle, and we must always defend and protect that principle. The Black woman, people like to say, we like to often say that she's the backbone of the Black community, but I like to look at it like this right here. Rather than saying that she's the backbone of the Black community, the Black woman is the womb that gives birth to the Black nation. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, the Black woman becomes the essence of who we are. She becomes our essence. She becomes that divine, cosmic essence that allows the Black nation to be. Without the Black woman, there is no Black nation. So therefore, we must always uphold and glorify and give reverence to the feminine principle that we call the Black woman, the African woman.
Okay. So I want to get into the race first mentality. How do you properly cultivate and build? Like, what are some precursory steps that go along the way? And an additional question is, does it vary between the African man, the African woman, and the African child?
Great question. So what I would say is this: the African man, woman, and child are a unit. We are a unit. We are three different aspects of the same whole. So therefore, our understanding of what it means to be race first is similar across the board. And race first is actually an instinct. It's a natural inclination for people to place themselves first. Now, the reason why there's a need for a race first philosophy is because we have been subjected to a type of trauma and torture that have kind of suppressed that instinct within us. So therefore, the instinct needs to be reawakened. We need to understand what it means and how to listen to and respond to the instinct of our natural inclination to do for ourselves first. So race first is who and what we are. When you look at the world, everything that exists places itself first. It places its kind first. That's throughout nature. And we are not separate from nature. Human beings, the Black man, the woman, and the child are a part of what we define as being nature. So therefore, we would respond in like manner. We would have to place ourselves first, our interests first, our survival first. That's a natural inclination. And this is what we're trying to get us to come back into that type of thinking and understanding and behavior.
Okay, so approaching this situation, many of us may have a complement or children who haven't, been raised in this kind of mentality. So, what are some tips or some things you learned working with, our people over 2 decades or more, in regards to the proper implementation? Like what are some of those tips that you could give in that proper cultivation?
First thing I would say is this. The one thing we cannot do, we cannot avoid the process of studying. And a lot of us want to avoid that process. We want to escape or circumvent the process of studying. If a person is truly trying to come into a race-first mentality, then he or she must be committed to studying. Because what has to occur is we have to actually re-Africanize our thinking. So our mentality has to undergo a total overhaul. How we think, how we perceive, how we conceive, how we process information, all of that has to be overhauled. Because up until this point, we have been shaped, fashioned, molded, and conditioned to think, conceive, and process information according to how Europeans do such. And that doesn't work for us. So the first stages to move into a race-first mentality is to engage in some serious study about what it means to be Black/African. So we need authentic African history and culture. We have to be studying that so we can understand how we looked at the world, how we saw the universe, how we engaged each other. We need to understand that process. And when you begin to do the studying, what happens is that your mindset begins to change. But there's a corresponding action that must accompany the changing of the mind. And that corresponding action is the behavior. See, oftentimes we get stuck just with the information, but we never change how we behave. So you have to change the behavior, because changing the behavior is what truly solidifies the race-first mentality, because now we can see it in action, not necessarily theoretically, because theoretically we can talk about it, but we need to really see it materialistically. What does it really look like? So we begin to demonstrate that in our actions. So study, changing the mentality, and then changing how we behave.
Okay. So this individual process for the betterment of the collective has to take place first. Am I correct?
Yes, because it has to start with us as a person first. And the deeper we get into understanding who we are, we come to recognize and realize that although we are viewed as distinct entities from an African point of view, we are collective entities. So we have to understand ourselves to come into a greater understanding of our collective self. Because it's only when you come to understand us, it's only when we become to understand us collectively that we truly begin to think about race first. Because we say race is a collective. Race is plural. Race implies many. The only way I'm going to be concerned about the many if I see myself as being a part of the many. If I don't see myself as being a part of the many, the part of the whole, a part of the collective, then I have no concern with the collective. I only focus on me. So we have to move through that stage and elevate our consciousness to the point that we understand that although I am a person, I'm a person entrenched in a community. So therefore, I'm a communal being first and foremost.
Okay. So now I'm looking for some implementation strategies to deal with the deprogramming of the Eurocentric psychology that has ever been embossed in our people. So they take us as a collective and then they pull us away as individuals. They teach their devalue system, which people call a value system. They teach their psychology, which is a justification for their behavior, and there's a rewards and punishment system for the proper adherence and the deviation. So now I'm looking for some implementation strategies that you can share with us to be able to go to our families and reorient them in their psyche back to a race first, to an African center, to a Black focus.
I think one of the easiest things that we can begin to do is, for those who may not be aware, is imagery. We have to introduce imagery to our people because we are very visual people and we are very symbolic people. So what I do is I try to get as many photographs of our African heroes and sheroes as possible and just introduce that, because once you start introducing the people and just talking about the different things that these individuals done, it naturally creates an inquiry in the mind of in the person. And once you can stimulate that inquiry, that curiosity about who we were and who we are, you can begin to move them. So for instance, I like to show photographs of heroes or sheroes that you're not normally reading about. So I might show a Fatiu Hamer and talk about some of her major struggles and how she held up. And most women, when they hear that, they are moved by like, wow, they did that to her. They beat her like that. They done this to her, and she still pushed forward. You know, she the one who said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know what I'm saying? I never knew it was, oh, that was her. Yes, that was Fatiu Hamer. You know what I'm saying? The Mississippi Democratic Freedom Party. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that. I need to find out more about her. And that's how it begins. It begins just like that, introducing, letting them know that who we are very colorful. We are very colorful people. We are very complex people. We are very vast people. And we have contributed on multiple levels. We just need to be exposed. So I think that those of us who have some understanding, we have to develop creative ways to expose our people to the knowledge and try to expose them in such a way that doesn't make them feel bad for not knowing. Expose it to them in such a way that creates inside of them a desire to know. And those are some basic steps to reorientate the psychology that the Europeans have done to us. We have to undo that. And the way you undo it is that, think about it like this. You got a glass of water, and someone puts some dye in the water. So now this water is tainted. It's not water anymore, it's tainted. But if I were to take a jug of pure water and pour it in that glass, what it would do over time, it would flush that dye out. The longer that I can put the clean water in, over time that dye get flushed out. That's the mentality, that's our minds. So we got to consistently bombard and expose our people to us so we can consistently flush out the Europeans' impurities that they have put in us. So it has to be a systematic process ongoing of exposure, because that's what they did to get us backwards. They exposed us and bombarded us with all of their mess. That's how we got backwards. So we have to undo that.
Okay. So I know y'all work with youth a lot. So what can you say about working with the youth in regards to exposing them to a proper cultural identity, a proper cultural mindset? Are they more open? And is it a situation, if you're dealing with the youth and you come about, an awareness or a breakthrough with them? What is, is there a situation with a tug of war with the parents? If they're, can we kind of talk about that?
This is what I've learned. And not only have I learned and experienced it, but I've spoken with other African-centered brothers and sisters that work with children. There's always this major struggle, children and the parents. There's a major struggle. A lot of parents that I've encountered do not value the work that you do with their children. They see the work that you do with their children as free time for them to be away from the child. So therefore, there is no reinforcing element. There is no patting on the back. There's no congratulations. So it's a tug of war for the child, because all children want to be cheered on by their parents. And most of the parents just want to dump the child on you and roll out. They think that you are some type of alternative daycare center or something like that, but you're really trying to work and develop the child. So these are a lot of the experiences that I've engaged over the years. But in terms of the receptivity of the youth for us, one of the things we was able to do to get the youth really involved is create like stories, have them be a part of stories and create like skits around our history. They enjoy doing that. They enjoy being a part of that. And also we did this thing called sisterhood and brotherhood wisdom circles. So we might take our young boys ages 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and we get all them together and we let them have a dialogue about, the history and the culture. What you see, how you see it. And they opens up and they enjoy that. And the same for the young girls, because once they begin to start talking about how they see and understand things, it allows you to help them navigate their own thinking that much more, right? So those two things were very, very instrumental. The skits get them involved that way through, through art, and being able to create formats that they can just talk and flush out their own ideas, and we help them put those ideas into a context that's compatible with what it means to be a black man or a black woman.
Okay. So how do y'all navigate the I love how aware my child is becoming. However, I don't want them to grow up hating other people kind of situation.
That's another one. And that's another one that you have to deal with. So typically in the past, when I had those situations, what I would tell the parent, I would let the parent express what they needed to express, and then I would ask them to define for me what they mean by hate. Because in most cases, once you ask them to define what they mean by hate, they're only going to tell you what they have been conditioned to say. They're not going to really truly be able to point out how it's hate, because they haven't really given any thought to it. They're just regurgitating what this society have made them to believe what is hate. Black love in this society is hate. So that's how they interpret it. So if you overemphasize black, they automatically got to see it as being hate, because that's the fail-safe. That's the fail-safe that the European conditioning have put inside of us, right? We must come to a halt anytime we see people that's holding black people up. Come to a halt, question it, challenge it, right? Don't support it. That's the conditioning process. So what I ask parents are this, I said, yes, mom, yes, ma'am, or mister, I said, I hear you not understand your concerns. I said, but my only question would be, before I answer your question, is exactly what do you mean by hatred? Because I'm unsure and unclear what you mean by hatred. And then when they begin to talk about it, they actually are saying out their mouth, they're talking about black love. They don't say black love. It's like, well, the overemphasis on black. They start saying stuff like that. And then I let them finish that. Then I might tell them, like, well, with all due respect, you still haven't pinpointed hatred. You've highlighted the fact that we emphasize blackness a whole lot, but I've never known that to be hate, right? And that allows me to get them into a conversation to reassess their own thinking. And so in the past, what have happened, some parents have recanted the hatred piece after I engage them this way. Some parents are offended when I engage them that way, and they still pour their child out and keep it bopping. So we have both of those experiences.
So in them instances, the people pulling their children out, y'all don't get caught in that, right? Y'all don't get stuck in it, right? To the point to where it's to your detriment, correct?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because,
we keep it moving, and we learned over the years. And one of the things that we decided to begin to do is actually, because when we started doing it first, we was just taking all black children. We was just like really trying to help black children, but we ran into all these roadblocks with these parents. So we realized that we said, it make sense. Let's interview the parents before we take the children, because we value what we do, and what we do is valuable. And now, so we started doing it that way. That allowed us to be able to just counsel some people out, like, let's just, nah. So it's a parental interview. And within that interview, we let them know, like, if your child want to come and be a part of this, it has to be a partnership. You have to be on board as well. If it's not going to be a partnership, it's not going to work. And there's no need for you to place your child with us if you're not going to be engaged in this process, right? So we started doing that, just having an open interview process of the parents. Excuse me.
Okay, so is there a shift in working to build a race-first philosophy in the family versus fostering these ideas in a collective organization? So, like with PLM, did you find the same challenges, or what was the process similar, or
Same
or was
challenges.
it different? Same challenges.
It was the same challenges because in a lot of cases we would have families where one person is receptive to the process of becoming race first, another person is not receptive. So then that's the internal struggle going on, because the person that's receptive is transforming, then he or she have to combat his or her partner that's not as receptive. So we run into the same problems, and it comes back to how we have been conditioned. We have been conditioned to truly dislike ourselves, distrust us, and not believe that we can do for self, not believe that we have the capabilities of getting things done, and not believing that we have our own history and culture. So therefore people we want to challenge everything about us, and that it complicates and disrupts the overall process of trying to move a collective into a collective mindset of what it means to be race first. Because we got all these little small fires that you have to put out along the way. You think you're making progress, and you think you're moving forward, then you find out that no, they over here, they yicking and yakking over here about this, this going on. And you got to get in there and try to fix that situation. So it's the same problem. What I would say is this, and I'm no fan of the Europeans at all, right? But at the same time, I'm a very honest revolutionary. I believe that to be sincere, you have to be able to acknowledge reality as it is. And what I would say is that the Europeans have done a great and a thorough job at messing the minds of Black people up. They've done a thorough job at that. You know what I'm saying? There's no way around. There's no way around that. And that admission is not me saying that we can't win, we aren't winning. I am just saying that in my experiences, these people have been successful at messing up the minds of Black people.
So now let's talk about character building, and building things like character building, self-esteem, and self-value, self-worth. Can we talk about that?
Yes. One of the things that I teach, and I've been pushing for a very long time, like I got some basic things that I never deviate from. If a person go back and listen to a lecture that I've done 15 years ago, you can hear these basic things, right? And that's correct socialization, meaning behavior rectification, study, culture, self-discipline. I never leave those areas, never, right? So for me, character is vital to everything we do. And let's be correct. Let's use one of the terms that's a Yoruba term, Iwa Rere, right? Not necessarily Iwa Peli, but Iwa Rere, good character. Good character, right? We live in a society that normalizes perversion, right? It normalizes perversion and it rewards indiscipline. So people have picked up on that, and they believe that as human beings, Black people, for the most part, we erroneously believe that we should be allowed to say and do whatever we want to do without any consequences or any accountability. So our characters are weak. Our discipline is weak. And so when you have individuals that's trying to build character, people run away from that. They run to those sectors of society that's going to give them refuge and never really ask them to be better than what they are. That's what I run into. It's only a small amount of individuals who truly want to get their characters right. A great deal of us, we want to remain freaks. I'm going to call it as it is. We want to remain freaks. The men want to remain whores, right? You know what I'm saying? We want to continuously be conspicuous spenders with our money. We want to flaunt things around like we have a whole lot, or we don't have a whole lot. We want to speak and say anything destructively and foul out our mouths. We want to get high. We want to drink alcohol. We want to still do all these things, right? And we don't want you to hold us accountable for doing it. And that's the problem. And therein lies the problem. So for me, you can't do none of that in PLM. And if I find out you're doing it, it's an issue. All of that is outlawed in PLM. Drinking, smoking, none of that stuff is allowed. Because I don't do it. I don't do none of that. Because it's not good. You can't win a war if you indisciplined. How you gonna beat these goddamn Navy SEALs? Them jokers are highly trained in the Rangers. How we gonna go up against something that's thoroughly trained as them and we weak as we are? What is wrong with us? Right? We think our enemy are amateurs. We're dealing with professional killers. We're dealing with individuals who can send 10 people into a small country and overthrow the country. That's what we're talking about. And so we keep on talking this, I'm revolutionary, I'm Pan-African, I'm African-centered, all this crap, but your discipline is shot. You know what I'm saying? Your character is shot. You like women. You have no control. You can easily get knocked off. You don't know anything about sexual mercenaries? They are real. How you think Bill Clinton got set up? Read the history of powerful men. How they get jammed up? Through a woman. Right? So that's my thing. Like, if you're not going to be about to talk about character, good character, man, we can't do no talking. We can't get down that way. No, you got to get your character right. And I'm going to always remind you that your character is not right, and you're not going to like it. You're going to get mad at me. You're going to get upset. You're going to say, well, he got something against me. You're going to see all of that, right? Because I'm not going to allow you to be in my presence with your jacked up character and don't say anything to you. Because my character isn't jacked up. Mine's nor my wife's is jacked up. So, and we the head of PLM. We the standard of PLM. So therefore, everybody else must behave in kind. And we need this across the board. That's the reason why Baba Imhotep put his book out, Iwa, because he understands it. Baba Imhotep has a book out. He has his Generation Track book out. He have his books out on the art of leadership. He talks about character. In his Generation Track book, he said one of the reasons why most organizations in the 60s wasn't as successful, he said because they wasn't strong enough in transforming the criminal mentality of the memberships. The character wasn't strong enough. And we have to talk to that stuff, right? So we got to get to the point now where as though our emphasis is on character development. And that's what spirituality is supposed to do for you. Your spirituality is supposed to enhance your character. Your spirituality is supposed to make you a better person. It's supposed to cultivate discipline, cultivate high morals and principles from an African point of view. That's what your spirituality is supposed to do. When your spirituality isn't doing that, you don't have spirituality. To me, you got something else. You can't tell me you're a calm priestess or a Yoruba priestess or a Kemetic priestess, and you're still chasing tons of women. You still getting high. You lying. You stealing. You thieving. You ain't no damn priest to me. You're a priest to somebody who don't know any better. You know what I'm saying? Anything you say you are has to show up in your behavior. It's what you do that validates what you say, not what you say. What you do validates what you say. What you do represents who you are, not what you say. So I watch what you do. So back to the initial thing, character development is highly important, and it's a way in which you can develop people's character. But character development can only happen when there is a partnership between the individual, whether that's the Walimu, the Saber, the Jegna, and the person that's in the process of having his or her character develop. That has to be a partnership. The person has to be humble, and they have to trust in the other person's ability to aid them in the development of their character. So that's the reason why in Kemet, when you get into the 10 cardinal virtues of Ma'at, it says, have faith in your master's ability to teach you the truth. That's why they said that, Now we can take the word master and switch it around, because some people got a problem with that word. We can say, well, have faith in your Jagna's ability to teach you the truth. Have faith in your Seba's ability to teach you the truth. Have faith in your elder's ability to teach you the truth, right? You can't get it if you don't trust the person that's tasked with the responsibility of moving you from one place to the next place. That requires humility, not arrogance.
Now, the issues of rebuilding self-confidence, self-value, and self-worth, and also reestablishing trust. How are these things done, and how does a race-first mentality help foster these proper ideas that have been lost?
I think one of the beginning ways in which it can be fostered is that the individual, come from the Jegna's point of side, such as myself. So when I'm working with individuals that I see have potential, and I want to move them to a deepening of race first, I give of myself to them first. And all the things that I do for them, I say, this is what we supposed to do as Black people for one another. So, and I show and I open up, I extend myself. So I behave in the manners that I want them to emulate, right? And I show them the same way that I am willing to trust you. You have to get to the place where you can in turn reciprocate and trust me. So it goes back to that process first and foremost, because the trust is a behavior that we have to learn. So we have been conditioned to unlearn trust. So you have to teach people how to trust by first demonstrating behavior that is trustworthy. So it starts there. It starts at the place, like a parent and a child. It's the parent's responsibility to ensure to the child that he or she is always going to be there for them. It's the parent's responsibility to teach the child that they're safe. The parent has to do that. And then the child emulates it as they grow and develop, and they know how to give it back. And that's the same for those of us that are in positions of leadership. Most of the burden is on us to demonstrate what it is that we desire from the other. So if it's trust that I need this person to begin to demonstrate, then I have to show them what it looks like. I have to extend it to them first and foremost. This is what it looked like. I'm going to use a basic example. So a part of our study class that we do, we tend to study the same books at the same time. And, we're building a bookstore. So all of the books that study in our study class come from the bookstore. I run the bookstore. So sometimes a person may not always have the money at the time that we're purchasing those new books to start a new book in the study class. So what I tell them is this right here: no flack, take the book, because we're noble and honorable people, right? I'm not going to write your name down. I'm not going to remember that you owe for the book. You're going to remember that. So take the book. I'm not going to hunt you down. You tell me when you're going to pay for the book. Oh, I'm going to pay you in 2 weeks. Okay, so in 2 weeks that you owe for the book. So I tend to do that a lot to let people know, like, I'm willing to trust you. So I'm not going to put no tab on you or none of that, right? Because you are going to determine where this relationship goes. Because the $17 that you keep or don't pay back don't hurt me. It don't hurt the organization, but it destroys a relationship. Right? So I tend to do things that way.
Okay. Now I got to ask about eliminating ego. Eliminating ego in this kind of organizational setting, in the family setting, in regards to building up a race-first mentality.
Eliminating ego. That's tough. That's a tough one. But what I would say is, for me, in my experience, I have not encountered a lot of male ego within our setting since I've been doing the work. The ego tend to come from individuals that's not a part of the setting. And I'll give an example, individuals who see themselves as being greater, people who classify themselves as being priests and things like that. They might pop up at one of our events or a service that we may be having, and they want to flaunt what they believe to be their knowledge. And they tend to try to exercise ego that way. But I've always been able to neutralize ego because I'm thorough in my own research and studies. I don't run around. I don't do a lot of lectures like most people. So a lot of people don't know what I'm aware of. So when people come with their ego and they popping off and they shooting, so I'm thorough enough to neutralize it, to let them know like you're not dealing with a lightweight. And that's the way in which we run the study class. Like people to be a part of our study class, to be a part of PLM, you gotta study because you're no good to the organization if you don't study. You're no good, and it's not about your money. You can have a whole bunch of money, right? It's not about that. It's about the ability to protect what we're building. And if you have money and you're ignorant, if you have money and you're Eurocentristic, you're not going to help us. You're going to destroy us. So for me, it's about making sure people are understanding the necessity of truly studying and transforming their mentality and placing Black lives first and foremost. So the egos that did come in, we was able to neutralize because the group was able to notice that that's ego and the group wasn't going to allow it in. So I might be the last one to even say something, right? The group automatically just come to the defense of, and they come in there and they do their part. Now, if they need for me to step in behind them, you know what I'm saying, to give them some more leverage, then I'll do that. But in most cases, I have to sit there and be quiet. But the group always dealt with those individuals who came in our house with their ego.
That's a beautiful thing right there. That's like a miracle. Because when it's time to splinter, a splinter splinters off,
Yes.
And things like that. So I want to take a moment and talk about these books, these wonderful books I got right here. The process of a writer, the process of a reader and a researcher. What did it feel like for you to finally, take that step and begin that process of articulating yourself beyond the lecture and into something that'll be here long after you have made the transition to the ancestor?
And it's interesting because the way I ended up writing books didn't start from me actually wanting to write a book. What happened first is I realized like years ago, a lot of the individuals that I was working with, there was a lot of concepts that they still were struggling with. And so what I would do is I would write on those concepts, just trying to break them down in a simplistic format to help them grasp it. And I realized that I was doing that so much that I was so much material that it just made sense to me to just go ahead and modify it, man, and create a book or whatever. So that's kind of how I came into writing a book. I never set out to write a book. I really was just always focused on trying to do the work and help the people who was around me and who I was working with to help them better understand some of the concepts. Like you might give a person a book like, I'll give an example. You might have a person read The Wretched of the Earth. That doesn't come easy to a lot of people. See, but when I read The Wretched of the Earth, it came easy to me, not because I went to school, went to college and nothing like that, because I only went to the 8th grade. But when I got into Frantz Fanon's thinking about the use of violence and decolonization, it all made sense to me. So I grasped it very well. But when I would hand that book to other people, it was kind of challenging to them. So I said, man, maybe I need to just start writing some of this stuff, you know what I'm saying? And writing my own little essays and things like that and just giving the essays out rather than the book. And when I would do that, I realized that people were easier grasping based on what I was writing because I was just simplifying what was in the books. And that's how I ended up writing books. I'm doing that. And in terms of the research, I think for me, the research was just my personal research because I started writing books years after I started doing research and studying. So like my first book came out in 2014, but I've been studying since 1993. So my research started basically from just personal research for myself and being able to do the work, but I was able to still utilize that to go into when I started writing books and things like that. I still had the the references and the suggested readers. Like in all my books, the first three anyway, the red, the black, and the green, you'll notice in those books at the back of that book, I always give a suggested reading list. In all three of those books, there's a suggested reading list, and in all three of those books, there's what I define as being an afterword, and I talk about myself. So that's how I wrote my books. You know what I'm saying? They're not necessarily autobiographical, but if a person go to the back of their book, they're going to get a little bit about me and what my thinking was during the time period when I was putting that book together, right? So that's how I did it. But coming into writing those books, it actually comes, for me, it was real indirect because I never really wanted to write books.
And that's amazing to note and to tell in the process of the story, because everything becomes built. There's certain catalysts that come along, so, just like you had this catalyst coming in to consciousness, catalyst coming into a race first mentality and philosophy, the catalyst of building an organization, the school. Everything has that story, and each story is a right, and it could be talked about in length just within itself. But then when you compound everything together, you see that alchemical carryover from one stage of development to the next. And reading and synthesizing and being able to take these concepts down, tear them down, and build them back up and put it back in the fold that's palatable for people who thirst. There's a quench that's thirst when you get a good book. You understand what I'm saying? And it flows well, and it's able to articulate the points to anybody indiscriminate to their development cognitively or their level of education skill set. Yes. I think you do very well in that because of these other experiences that come along with it. This is what's on the other end of the equation or the equal sign right here, yeah. But your life experiences. You see what I'm saying? That are the equation that's being worked. So I definitely appreciate that. Now y'all got some events coming up. You had an event yesterday as well. So can we talk event-wise some of the things you got going on, kind of like the mind frame or the goal behind it?
So one of the yes, we have me and my wife, Mama Ife, has an event coming up. Actually, it's next Saturday. So, and that's the Power Couple Initiative Workshop. And what we want to do is, we had this idea, this thought, years ago, that we briefly talked about. We jotted some notes down on it, but never got around to get back to it. So years went by, at least like 7 years. So I'm gonna do it like this. From an African point of view, in our societies, everything is an aspiration. Case in point, like when children are born, they are orientated and reared in such a way that they aspire to be mothers and fathers, husbands and wives. They aspire to be a woman, and then once you become that, it's an aspiration to one day be an elder. Elders aspire to be ancestors. So in our society, we realized that everything was an aspiration. So now looking at the relationships over here in the West that we have, everybody is shooting for relationships from their hip, right? There's no ideal relationship that we aspire to. So we came up with the idea, we said a power couple. And we want to define what the power couple is, right? Some of the features of a power couple, because we feel like in our relationships, we all should be aspiring to a power couple. And naturally, a power couple encompasses the feature of complementarity. You can't be a power couple if it's male and male or female and female. It can't be, a man and a child. That's not a power couple, right? So complementarity is one of the defining features of a power couple. Also, we say that a power couple should be in an African-centered relationship for at least 10 years. At least 10 years, you should be in an African-centered relationship with your man and the man and the woman. We're also saying that a power couple, they should each share the same ideological outlook, right? It lends for better fusion when you're looking at the world the same way. And they should be economically stable. They should be supportive of one another's individual aspirations. So we wanted to define, so we feel like we are a standard of what we define as being a power couple, what we have been done. So we've been together for 15 years. And our relationship been African-centered the entire time. We've been doing all the things that we say, being able to fuse together, being able to support one another, being able to work together, being able to have the same ideological outlook, working inside of the same organization. So these are some of the features that we are saying that a power couple should have. There's a whole lot more to go with that. You should have a mission. There should be a constitution. So these are the things that we want to pretty much put out there to try to help our people better understand what it means to be in union together. We need to better understand, why do we come together to be in union? What's the purpose of that, right? It's about power. We come together for power, to empower ourselves so that we in turn can empower our community. That's what it's about. So these are the things that we want to talk about in the power couple, so we can get people to start viewing their relationship as a power unit rather than just some type of social time they spend together. That's the reason why we're falling apart, because we watch a lot of TV, we got a lot of fanciful ideas about what the relationship should be. So we're not being able to, when one person don't meet that particular fanciful expectation, now we infighting and the relationship come apart. So we want to take and throw the fanciful stuff out the window and build this power couple ideal around realistic things that can lend to the empowerment of the two, that would allow them to in turn help the family and the community.
And did you get the tickets where for this particular event before we go
so
to that?
the power couple initiative workshop, you can go on my Facebook, which is Baba Imhotep on Facebook, and you can pull it up there, or you can type in on Facebook the Power Couple Initiative Workshop. It'll come up in the event page, and you can and then they have all the information there, how a person could pay for the workshop. It's $35 for the workshop. It's a 3-hour workshop from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. It's most definitely going to be, it's worth your $35. You're going to learn a whole lot. You're going to get a whole lot. And we're going to just deal with some other issues that typically pop up inside relationships. We're going to offer some techniques on how we have been able to sustain and maintain our relationship for 15 plus years.
Okay. Now, what about counseling? Can we talk about counseling and eldership real quick, like the importance of seeking counsel and the importance of eldership?
So that's very important. I'm glad you bring that up, Robert. So another thing, I'm gonna say this just as a backdrop for those who know me, those who don't know me. Every position, regardless of what I'm talking about, my reference resource and context is always traditional African. It's always our way. So anything I say is coming from that point of view. So when you're talking about any type of endeavor, we've always had what we define as being counselors or elders. We've always had someone to walk us into that endeavor, right? Because the objective is to minimize mistakes and maximize successes. And the way you minimize your mistakes, if you lend your ear to those who have already walked the same path that you want to walk. So in terms of relationships, if you're new to a relationship, you don't know all the ins and outs of a relationship if you're new to it. So therefore, it makes good sense to allow elders, mamas and babas, who have the experience in successful African-centered relationships to lend you some wisdom to enhance the opportunities for you to be successful. So always do that. So one of the things that me and Mama Ife has, we have the No More Counseling Service. And that's what we're actually doing this workshop through. We have a No More Counseling Services, and that counseling service is for African people. Now, a lot of times when we hear the word counseling, we kind of cringe as a people. So let me clarify what we mean by it. So for us, counseling doesn't necessarily mean that you are broken or your relationship is broken. For us, counseling becomes the means, the instrument through which you can access wisdom and information to enhance what you already have to ensure that it's going to be successful, right? That's what the counseling is, a place where you can come and have discussion so you and your mate can get better clarity, and y'all can have a third party or a fourth party to just listen in and weigh in to help you be better at what you do. So yes, so that's No More Counseling Service LLC. That's ran by myself and Mama Ife. And like I say, reach out to me through Facebook or Instagram if you want more information about our counseling services.
All right, all right. And you had an event, a virtual event last night as well. How was that?
Yeah. So the event last night, I think it went extremely well. It was on Race First, and I was able to engage in an open dialogue. And then at some point, I just went through a few slides to just highlight what Race First is, what it looked like, what we should not be doing. And one of the I think one of the most profound questions that came up, it was a great question, typical. And one of the persons wanted to know, how do you, from a Race First perspective, how do we deal with quote unquote white friends or whatever? So my thing is, like I always say, is this: who and what we are is apparent when we walk through the door. If I walk into a room with 10 white people, the first thing I see are 10 white people. And the first thing they see is a black man coming through the door. So from their point of view, they expect me to think, speak, and behave as a black man. But the moment I open my mouth and I don't do that, it's the moment I weaken myself. Because it's a given that I'm black. That's a given. So why not speak black? Why not represent black? That's a given. So the moment I come in there trying to speak and dance any other kind of way, I undo myself. And so when I tell people, like me personally, I don't have white friends. You know what I'm saying? I know some white people. I don't have white friends. To say somebody's your friend, you know what I'm saying? That's a profound word, right? So I don't have white friends. Now, what I say is this: for the people who I do know that's white, they know I'm black, and I know they white. So I don't compromise my position because of them. Because for one, I'm not talking to them, and I'm not concerned about them. My message is for black people. Now, if a black truth upsets a white person, then good, right? Because the moment that my truth upsets you, you validate my truth. The moment you're bothered by my truth, you validate what I'm already trying to tell my people anyway, right? So that's how I look at things. You know what I'm saying? So it's a given I'm black, and I'm always going to speak black, represent black. I'm always going to refer to Africa, all of that. I'm never going to pull from Europe. I'm going to pull from our ancestors. I'm going to always talk about the ancestors. I'm always going to talk about our way. I'm going to say things like that. Well, from our perspective, we view the world like this. From our perspective, we do this, that, and the other. I'm never going to talk in such a way to make white people think that I'm including them with me. Never. I'm always going to say from the African point of view, I'm going to draw the line because the line is already drawn anyway. Phenotypically, the line is drawn. They know who I am. I know who they are. So my concern is never with white people. My concern is always with us.
My religion right there. All right. So as we close, final thoughts one more time, emphasizing this event you have coming up, how people can get a hold of you, how people can, if they're looking to become a part of PLM, if they want to salute or support your initiatives. I know y'all are building a school, things like that. So
yes.
I definitely want to make sure that we highlight these things before we close.
One of the things we want to do, so the event, like I said, the Power Couple Initiative Workshop, September the 19th, 12 p.m. on Zoom, hosted and facilitated by myself and Mama Ife, my wife of 15 plus years. And it's, like I say, it's about trying to help us build power couples to create the ideal relationship that we should be aspiring towards, right? We shouldn't be shooting from the hip. We shouldn't be jumping in and jumping out of relationships, right? We should get with people that match as an ideology. We should get with people that's trying to be in their own white African mind. That's what it should be about. And we should be creating our mission statements for our relationships, and we should create a constitution that's going to govern how we're going to interact. And we should hold ourselves to those tenets, whatever those tenets are. If it's saying we don't go to bed angry with each other, then don't go to bed angry. If both y'all gotta stay up for 48 hours, man, just stay up for 48 hours. Don't break the tenet, because the more we can hold true to our tenets, it's what builds our degree of discipline. And our discipline is what's going to allow us to win. It's the discipline across the board. If you lack discipline, you're not going to be able to tolerate some of the ugliness that your mate has, because all of us have been dipped in European batter. So we bring a little bit of ugliness with us. You have to find the person that can tolerate your ugliness. And you got to find a person who ugliness that you can tolerate. You know what I'm saying? And then y'all grow together, but that requires discipline, great patience, great tolerance, great clarity, you know what I'm saying? Great understanding. That requires a lot of that type of work. So if you want to get deeper into that discussion, then I encourage you to take this workshop. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram, or you can look on Facebook at the Power Couple Initiative. In terms of what we do organizationally, we have a website, www.plm95.org. That's www.plm95.org. You can go on this website. You can see all the things that we are doing, and you can figure out how you can get involved. You can sign up for our email list, and you can check us out. One of the things that you will notice on this website is that we have an ongoing fundraiser. We are in the process of building a African-centered school for children ages 6 through 10. That's our focus right now, starting out 6 through 10. And these children will be educated, socialized along the lines of what we define as being age grades. So 6 and 7-year-olds will be educated together. 9 and 10-year-olds will be educated together. Our 8-year-olds, if they are weak or strong. If they are strong, he or she will go up with the 9 and 10-year-olds. If they are weak, he or she will go down with the 6 and 7-year-olds. There's nothing wrong with that, because in our societies, we educated in age grades. You can take a 6, 7, 8-year-old and you can teach them all the same things, and you can raise their awareness all together if you understand what education is all about. For us, education is about touching the spirit of the person, the spirit of the child. Because once I touch the spirit of the child and open up inside of that child the gifts that that child came to the world with, everything else is a walk in the park, right? We don't have to pour anything into our children. We just have to find creative ways to get inside our children and touch their spirit and open that spirit up. And everything else is a walk in the park. So we're asking any and everybody, what we want to do is this. Historically, a lot of African-centered schools run into the problem of sustainability. Sustaining the existence of the school because of the ongoing overhead. We don't want their problems. So one of the solutions we came up with is we are asking our brothers and sisters, black man and black woman, if you can commit yourself to a $21 donation a month if you're one person. If you're a couple, $31 a month to the ongoing fundraising. And what these funds do over time, it'll become the funds that we are used to sustain the ongoing operation and development of the school. Currently, we have raised successfully $30,000 towards our effort. And we're going to keep going. And, I'm going to keep on coming on to different shows and trying to talk to the people and let you know who we are and what we're trying to do. You can follow my son. My son had 2 books out in Fatiu. He wrote those books himself with, in partnership with my wife. My son's 7 years of age. Me and my wife educated my son. And my son doing fractions. Mathematically, he do fractions. This is his vocabulary words. SAT words is my 7-year-old son vocabulary words. He can spell these words. He can use them to a degree. But all we keep on doing is keep reinforcing it. My son has 10 subjects to do a day. I don't sit down there with him and I don't do like we do in the European system, sit in some school for 4 or 5 hours in the house and boom, boom. I don't do that. No. My son is orientated to wake up in the morning and to know that he has 10 subjects to do. He has AM subjects and he has PM subjects. Before he go to bed that night, his subjects must be completed. So he has the freedom to do his subjects how he see fit. All right? That's how I educate him. Educate him along the lines of being independent, being responsible for his own development. And we are going to replicate this model inside this school. I am appealing to our people to help us make this a reality. Help us make this a reality. Go to plm95.org and check out what we are doing. And check out what Baba Imhotep is doing. And, you'll see that we genuine, we sincere, we 100% about this business right here. The last thing I would say to my people that's out there is let's not avoid studying. Let's study. Study. We have a study class every Sunday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. is on Zoom. If you want to be a part of our study class, go to my website, plm95.org, and there's a page you can click on, and you can fill out a form expressing your interest in the study class. You'll get sent the link, and then you'll be invited to what we define as our orientation, study class orientation. We do orientation once a month. There's an orientation scheduled for September for this Sunday. So if anybody out there want to be a part of this orientation, you have to get on there before Sunday and put your name in it so you can get the link on Sunday to be a part of this orientation. Otherwise, you have to wait until October. Orientation is once a month. No one can come into the study class without first going through the orientation. We need to know who you are, what you want, what your expectations are. So that's what the orientation is about. You still there, brother? It's like you faded out on.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Yeah, I got a phone call. So I definitely want to thank you and look forward to working with you in the future to help with this initiative and anything that fam got going on in organizations as well. Um, I really applaud the work that y'all are doing. And when you see something like that, you grab a hold and you double down. So, however I can help and be of service to you, your fam, to PLM.
I know, well. Brother. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate this opportunity to be a part of, this platform, and I appreciate the work that you do because I see you. You're instrumental in helping these messages to get out and to get into places that they probably never got. Like right now, I see one message, and the message is, I believe, is from New Zealand. And my voice probably never would have been heard in New Zealand. It's due to you today that my voice have just now been heard in New Zealand. So I have to give honors to you and give honor and praise to our ancestors for touching you in a way that moved you to do the work that you do. It's equally as valuable. But I want to try to follow up with that brother. I think it's a brother. I was trying to see how I can respond to his message. Did you see the message? The one, Bubba, I think his name is Delaney Brown. Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to respond and follow up with him.
I think if you go back, Bob, to the video, something like that, you might be able to click on his link, or if you just give an email or something for them.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah. So my email for those out there who want to reach out to me, primarily you, my brother, Delaney Brown. Hopefully I didn't mention your name, but email is IFATIU@yahoo.com, and that's IFATIU@yahoo.com. So shoot me an email. Let's get the work done. Let's keep it moving.
All right, Baba. Thank you for your time.
Peace and blessings. Thank you for allowing me to come on.